Hello guys, thank you very much for being so early morning in this lovely Madrid. However, I think the weather is much hotter than I expected. My region is Poland, so I used to have a minus 20 degrees in winter time. So, okay guys, thank you very much, Kiati, Leo, thank you very much for this panel. So we will be speaking about the really important thing, which is trust. So may we start with just a very generic question. What do you think a trust in tech means?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, go.
It's really difficult. The last time I checked, people have different opinions of trust. And so my background is data science, economics, behavioral economics. All those things feed into a definition of trust and fairness and transparency. And there isn't really one. There were 21 when we tried to build a model because it's got cultural nuances, it's got lots of different interpretations, it's got opinions, and it's really, really difficult. And I think establishing a baseline of trust is why we are here. Like, how do we establish a baseline of trust in technology, and what is the responsibility and onus on people who build tech?
Okay. Leo?
Thank you. So interestingly enough, technology changes very rapidly, and what the definition of trust changes with it. What trust today is very different from trust tomorrow, especially with the rise of AI, which is kind of my background as well, which completely changes our interactions with technology. It's very, very, when you finish defining trust, suddenly during that time, trust changed, and you need to define it all over again.
Thank you very much. So my opinion, as you can see, I'm the oldest one here. I think this is why I'm the moderator as well. So for me, the trust is trust, which means the trust means, can I believe you? And it's not a matter about the definition of trust, which is a really important word. However, I do agree with you guys that the trust changes because of the technology. But for me, as a human being, understanding of trust is exactly the same. Can I believe you? Can I trust you? So what do you think, what is the difference between trust and ethics? Is there any difference? And if so, how do you perceive it? Leo?
Sure. So ethics, I think, is more universal, but trust is more personal. And, you can have trust without ethics, I'm afraid. And you can have ethics without trust as well. But I think that, I personally prefer to have the combination of the two. I think each one is equally important, and each one has a slightly different role.
Yes, in my opinion, both go hand in hand. For me, as Leo said, trust is more subjective, it's personal, it's interpretation. Do I trust you? If you sell me an apple and I asked you for an orange, do I still trust you? It's that feeling. It's really, really difficult to establish outside of that human-to-human connection. And ethics is standards. You can call it objective. It's something you lay as a foundation upon which trust can be built. And again, people who are building technology need to understand the nuances of both and release the technology in the world with an aim to establish ethical standards, which will then engender trust in the said technology.
Great. So in my opinion, in fact, ethics, I do agree with you guys, generally speaking. Ethics means that there are rules. You need to be ethic to have a trust. However, having and behaving ethically does not necessarily mean that I receive a trust from outside, because trust is much wider. Ethics is more personal, yes, because it is how we behave as a person. So that's really interesting how ethics and trust works together, and I think that an ethic in business is really important, especially for startups, because I didn't mention, but of course we will focus about the trust and ethics from the startup perspective, because this is the most difficult one, I think, for the startups, especially when we speak about the startup journey, but we will cover it just in a few moments. And guys, by the way, If we manage to finish earlier, feel free simply to find the questions, because we are here as well to be ready to answer your questions if you have a time. And now I think the question we can spend next 15 minutes on. However, guys, we don't have 15 minutes on this question. So AI and trust, AI and ethics. So Leo, you are doing AI right now. So how do you find it?
Yes, not only I'm doing AI, I'm focusing specifically on trust of AI, so this is very close to my heart. And it is a challenge because AI is so complex that, trust kind of often goes hand in hand with transparency. When you see everything, you could trust that. AI doesn't have that. AI is so complex that you cannot really see through, and you have to, to believe things rather than to understand them, and this makes AI very, very, very difficult to trust. On the other hand, if we go back to the previous question and connect that with the topic of ethics, it's also a question of whether the people who create AI solutions and models, whether we trust that they are ethical, because this is the basis of everything. And in our modern world, it is very hard to do, in a more capitalistic world. And so I think, from my perspective, trust in AI is the biggest current challenge of trust inside the tech world.
So I will separate out Gen AI versus AI. I think Gen AI, really complex, as Leo says. I'm still doing traditional AI, I'm not in Gen AI. Traditional AI, I think there is a fine line where you can establish and start mitigating for biases and make it a bit more trustworthy. And we go back to things like black box bias. Can you make it explainable? Is the technology doing what it says on the tin? Is it creating outcomes that people set out to do? And is it fairer? Are you unleashing something that's fair, responsible? And I think that's a bit easier when you go to traditional AI, and you can start looking at the data, because that is the infrastructure upon which traditional AI is built. And so data as an infrastructure is where I'm playing. What does good data look like? What does bad data look like? And can you really mitigate biases if you remove bad data out of the system?
Okay, thank you very much. So guys, it won't be so easy with this question, because I can tell you, I personally don't trust AI at all. As I told you, I'm the oldest one here. Yeah. So all my two co-founders, most of my employees use AI for more than 2 years right now to help their work. Yes, of course, ChatGPT and so on. I'm not using AI right now, not only because of that I don't trust it, but I receive a content from the AI, and I can tell you that 2 years ago, it was like a second that I can simply distinguish what content was generated by the AI, what content was just my employee, and stuff like that. Right now, since 1 or 2 months, it makes me really difficult to distinguish it. So I do admire how the AI improved, and I would say from the contents of this panel that AI tries to build my trust. He has not gained it yet, but tries. So how do you find it? Don't you think that saying people, guys, let's try AI, is dangerous for us?
So, in short, yes. It is, I think, that just starting to use AI without any controls may not end well for us. We've all seen the movies. But I also think that we have the technology and we have the means to build technology that would mitigate that. And today, my personal recommendations without this technology is kind of the way of using AI is when you have a way to look at the output of the AI and have a strong opinion whether you believe that output is correct or not. So like if you ask ChatGPT something in a field that you have some understanding in, that's great. If you ask ChatGPT a question about something you have no understanding about, more problematic. But people, including myself, are working on tools that serve somewhat as supervisors or reviewers of AI tools that would allow us, hopefully in the future, to when we have an output from an AI, we know that someone or something already checked that output, verified that it is indeed a good one, verified any ethical issues that may be present in there, and we as end users got the results only after some verification. That would go a long way towards building trust.
So this is a really difficult one for startups because I think you, barring OpenAIs of the world, if you have millions and billions and trillions of dollars, which the normal startups don't have, you can ignore that. They're outliers. The rest of us, mere mortals who have a few millions, are trying to build responsible technology, and that takes a long, long, long time. So for the example of Applied, we have taken 4.5 years to release, and we haven't even released it because I'm not confident that the output I release in the world will get me what I want. And so it's specifically looking at hiring, screening, and 99% of the technology out there that uses AI for hiring is biased, and that's a guarantee. And I've tested most of these technologies myself. So when I release something, I need to be careful that I'm not replicating or amplifying the biases. And therefore, it's taken me 4.5 years and a long time, lots of money, well, not as much as OpenAI, but lots of money to understand whether the problem can be solved in a fair way. And it's really difficult for startups because most startups want to go like that. And if you're not going like that, you're a failure. But I don't think you can solve societal problems like this. You have to solve societal problems, which is what I'm trying to solve in a very complex way.
So that's great. I dig this question. So because I will not give you away right now about that. So from this, what you said, guys, my understanding is that we still need to work quite hardly to build a trust into AI. Because with what you said, Leo, is that if I'm able to verify the content that the AI generated as output, it's quite easy. Yeah, but let's think, is this the most I'm going to use AI and like ChatGPT? No, it is not. Yes, what I saw over the typical usage of those technology AI is that I'm asking about something that, two cases, I don't want to spend a lot of time because I know they will generate quite nice output. But the second one, I have no clue. So please tell me, which means that if I have no clue, I should trust the output. And you said that is not always the case. Yeah? So I think that we shouldn't simply try to give a message right now that AI is ready to be trusted. It's still a lot of work towards this, that we should trust it, yeah, because this technology changes a lot. Yes, recently I heard as well that the AI on themselves is trying to find a fake news and as well is able to share with this. So I think that we still need to be careful about AI and the trust into AI. And for me, from my understanding, as it is right now, the message is really clear. Use AI because it's a great tool. It can help in a lot of our areas. It can save health and so on. However, please be careful just to not make a fake news all over the world. Thank you very much. It was a really nice question here. So, from your startup perspective, what do you think? Does your customer, partners, investors trust in your startup or in people?
Shall I take that?
Yeah, go.
Well, trust is, the question is really, can we put as much trust in humans as robots or technology? And we know there is serious algorithmic risk aversion. So if I said to you, oh, Leo and I have been hired in this company or South Summit by this algorithm, or I said to you, this is a panel of people who've chosen specifically Leo and myself for this panel, who would you trust more? You would instantly say, okay, humans, because I don't know what's been fed into the AI algorithm. And that's the problem. It's reversing or mitigating that algorithmic bias that we all have as humans. And it becomes really important to then start drip feeding. And I'm going to use that word because it's related to transparency, it's related to the time spent, it's related to the ethics, it's how much data and good data you're feeding into the system and how long is it taking you, and how are you showing that? Are you transparent about it? And we all know the recent OpenAI cases, but for us at Applied, people trust our system, and that shows in the data, it shows in the output, it shows in our net promoter scores with candidates, with investors, with customers, because we've taken 5 years. And for 5 years, I've been doing this, saying, trust me, trust me, trust me. You will see it in the output. And then when the output comes 5 years later, if the output is not good enough, of course, the trust will take a second to break. But they're trusting me now because I'm saying what I'm doing, and my actions correlate with my words.
Great, great.
That's the ultimate.
Leo, what's your point of view?
Sure. So I think that trust begins with humans. Like, that's the beginning. No one would work with me if they wouldn't trust me as a person, at least to some extent. And then after they trust me, then they start using or like reviewing my technology, and then they need to start trusting that too. And again, even if they trust me perfectly, if their trust in my technology is misplaced, just like it said here, like we're losing that. And so from that point, we need to maintain the balance of both. The trust of the technology needs to be kept, and I completely agree, trust takes a long time to gain and takes just a second to lose. And then also, even if the product is working great, they still need to continue trusting me as a human, because there's always tomorrow, and even if everything works today, they need to make sure that if something doesn't go well, they could come to me and I'm going to help them to do. So like starting from just human trust and then continuing with a combination of the two.
Great, thank you very much. So, in fact, I do agree with you guys. So I think that the trust, we need to have both, because if any of both of these parties fails, I cannot build trust. So I need to trust into the things we are building, and I need to trust the people that are simply standing. So another thing is that, in fact, we said that we should trust people, because, guys, you can see us on a stage right now. We are live. We are speaking to you. For sure, we are not deepfakes. However, how do you find this when you will watching us on a webcast? How you make sure that we are really standing on this stage and speaking to you? This is a question we will not answer right now. I will let it know afterwards if we have some time. But this was what came to my mind when I was hearing the answer. Guys, and a question from the typical startup perspective. So how trust to tech changes with the lifetime of the startup, from the MVP, pre-seed or seed, Series A, and so on? What's your view on this? Leo, could you start?
Sure. So Verx for me is my third company. I've gone through the process twice before, and now going for the third time. So I completely agree. The tools to gain trust, they grow with the life cycle of the company. The tools that you have early on don't go anywhere. Like, still the personal trust of the founders of the company, of the technology, it will remain throughout their entire life cycle. But then I think the further you grow, there is also like additional aspects. For example, the trust of the brand. When you build your brand, it becomes a separate entity in a way, separate from the company itself. And then that brand is either trusted more or less. And then you have you could have a company of thousands of people, and then every single employee of the company needs to gain trust on a personal level as well. So it is an evolving beast, but it always grows. I didn't find any aspects going away with the growth of the company. So it becomes more and more complex to maintain trust as you grow.
It's a similar experience on my side as well with Applied. The initial set of customers was a huge change management piece. There was a lot of leap of faith that they had to say. So I had to constantly keep asking for trust. And that's hard, but that's what startups have. In the beginning, you have nothing. And so the customer doesn't know you, the customer doesn't know your technology, the customer doesn't really know and trust whether you will deliver the technology. So it is about establishing the relationship, and the foundation of the relationship is trust. And so in the beginning, it's all about that leap of faith. But as the startup grows, and now I've been applied for 4.5 years, and we've raised 2 rounds of funding from VCs, that dynamic has shifted a little bit, because now you can see the customers trusting, and that creates a halo effect, and you get social proof, and then other customers come in because maybe one of their friends in another company has used the product and they talk about it, which is great for us because nobody else talks about hiring technology on dinner tables, but they talk about applied hiring technology at dinner table parties, and that helps me. And that would not happen, absolutely not happen, if there was not trust in the system, and not just trust in me.
Yeah, guys, so my experience is the same. However, if I may, I will extend it a little bit. I've already created 5 companies in my life. The Autologic is the 5th one. And I as well have 15 years in corporate, in finance, in banking. And I can tell you that at the beginning, at the MVP, as you said, at the pre-seed or seed, the trust into the solution is just a belief into a solution. It's not a trust yet, because we are simply speaking about the idea. Wow, great one. Well, it's not a time for trust to the solution yet. It's just a vision. But it's for sure 100% time for trust in the people and founders. As you know, anybody deal with the VCs, one of our question assessment, team, founders, yes, okay? So trust in people, trust in team, in founders. Trust to the idea is simply to validate whether this trust can be built. Then when we go into Series A and Series B, for sure it means that we are already working, selling, which means the trust. It's time to prove the trust into the solution. Trust into the team is separated because you still need to have a trust into founders that are really working hard to have this. And then when we go into DC and changing into corporation, there is just trust into the company, because if the company is successful, most of the market believes in the company. However, the people are hidden at this stage at the moment. But if we go into a specific partnership between your customer and your startup at this stage, quite a huge stage, almost a corporation, you will find a screaming from the partnership that they want to see people behind your corporation. They want to build a trust not only with your company, but as well with the people behind this, because we tend to understand who you are working with. And this is, again, changes. So this is, for me, from my perspective, the full point of view. Guys, so one final question and one sentence answer. When the trust is not an issue for the tech at all?
Don't.
Closed. Guys, no time for the last questions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kia. Thank you very much, Leo.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Leo.
Big applause. Thank you.